The year is 2025, a year that many thought would bring progress and stability, yet here we stand, teetering on the edge of uncertainty. The world watches with bated breath, eyes glued to screens, hearts pounding with anticipation and fear. The United States stands at a crossroads, poised to elect its next president. The decision made here will ripple across the globe, affecting billions. The stakes are higher than ever before. Global conflicts simmer, threatening to boil over. The climate crisis escalates, with natural disasters becoming more frequent and severe. The very future of our planet hangs in the balance. The choices we make today will determine the world our children inherit. Amidst this backdrop of uncertainty, a familiar figure emerges: Donald J. Trump. His presence alone stirs strong emotions, both of fervent support and vehement opposition. A polarizing force in American politics, Trump's potential return to the White House sends shockwaves across the globe. His name evokes both hope and dread, depending on who you ask. His past policies, often characterized by their unpredictability and disregard for international norms, have left an indelible mark on the world stage. Allies and adversaries alike are on edge, wondering what a second term could mean. From the volatile Middle East to the delicate balance of global power, the potential consequences of a second Trump presidency are profound. The world watches, waiting to see if history will repeat itself or take a new turn. Will his return to the Oval Office ignite further conflict or pave the way for unexpected alliances? The international community braces for the impact, preparing for any eventuality. Will he continue to prioritize short-term economic gains over the long-term health of our planet? The environmental stakes have never been higher, and the world demands answers. The world holds its breath, bracing for the impact of Trump 2.0. As the clock ticks forward, the future remains uncertain, and the world waits on edge. Donald Trump's approach to the Middle East during his first term was nothing short of unconventional. His strategies often defied traditional diplomatic norms and were characterized by a bold, sometimes brash style that sought immediate results. He eschewed decades of established foreign policy, opting instead for a transactional approach that prioritized personal relationships and perceived wins over long-term strategic goals. This method was both praised and criticized, as it brought about significant changes but also stirred controversy. One of Trump's most significant actions in the region was his unveiling of the deal of the century, a peace plan aimed at resolving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The plan was ambitious, proposing a new framework for peace that had been elusive for decades. However, the plan was widely criticized for heavily favoring Israel and neglecting key Palestinian demands. Many saw it as a one-sided proposal that failed to address the core issues at the heart of the conflict. Critics argued that it undermined the possibility of a two-state solution and further inflamed tensions in the region. The plan's reception highlighted the deep divisions and complexities that continue to plague the Middle East. In another controversial move, Trump brokered the Abraham Accords, a series of agreements that normalized relations between Israel and several Arab states, including the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. These accords were seen as a significant diplomatic achievement. While touted by the Trump administration as a historic breakthrough, the accords were also met with criticism for sidelining the Palestinian issue and potentially destabilizing the region. The long-term impact of these agreements remains a topic of intense debate among experts and policymakers. A second Trump presidency could have far-reaching consequences for the already volatile Middle East. His previous term saw significant shifts in US foreign policy, particularly in relation to Israel and Iran. His past actions suggest a continuation of his pro-Israel stance, which included moving the US embassy to Jerusalem and recognizing the Golan Heights as part of Israel. These moves have been controversial and could potentially embolden hardliners on both sides of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, leading to increased tensions and violence. With the recent appointment of Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, a known hawk on Middle Eastern issues and a staunch supporter of Israel and critic of Iran, the administration's policies are likely to become even more aggressive. The stage is set for a more confrontational approach towards Tehran, which could involve increased military presence and economic sanctions. This could further escalate tensions in the Gulf region, where the risk of military confrontations is already high. Such confrontations could jeopardize global energy security, as the Gulf is a critical region for oil production and transportation. Furthermore, Trump's close relationship with Saudi Arabia, a key player in the region, a country with a questionable human rights record, raises concerns about the future of American values and alliances in the region. His willingness to overlook human rights abuses in pursuit of economic interests could embolden autocratic regimes and undermine efforts to promote democracy and human rights. The future of Middle Eastern politics remains uncertain, but the potential for increased conflict and instability is high, making it a critical area to watch in the coming years. Donald Trump's stance on climate change has been a source of global consternation. During his first term, he withdrew the United States from the landmark Paris Climate Accord, a global agreement aimed at curbing greenhouse gas emissions. This decision, widely condemned by the international community, signaled a disregard for the scientific consensus on climate change and undermined global efforts to address this existential threat. Trump's environmental policies were characterized by a rollback of environmental regulations, promotion of fossil fuels, and denial of climate science. His administration systematically dismantled environmental protections, loosened restrictions on air and water pollution, and opened up protected lands and waters to oil and gas drilling. The consequences of Trump's environmental policies were felt both domestically and globally. The United States experienced a surge in extreme weather events, including devastating hurricanes, wildfires, and heat waves during his first term. These events, exacerbated by climate change, resulted in billions of dollars in damages and countless lives lost. On a global scale, Trump's withdrawal from the Paris Agreement and his rollback of environmental regulations undermined global efforts to combat climate change. The United States, as the world's second-largest emitter of greenhouse gases, abdicated its responsibility to address this global crisis, setting a dangerous precedent for other nations. Donald Trump's foreign policy was marked by a disdain for multilateralism and a strong preference for bilateral deals. He withdrew the United States from international agreements, alienated allies, and engaged in numerous trade wars. His unpredictable behavior and disregard for diplomatic norms strained relationships with long-standing allies and emboldened adversaries. Trump's approach to China was particularly confrontational. He initiated a trade war, imposed tariffs, and accused China of unfair trade practices. While some argue that his tough stance was necessary to counter China's growing economic and military might, others contend that his actions were counterproductive and ultimately damaged the global economy. As the world grapples with a multitude of interconnected crises, the potential return of Donald Trump to the White House poses a significant challenge to global stability and the fight against climate change. His past actions suggest a continuation of his divisive rhetoric, unpredictable behavior, and disregard for international norms. The choice before us is clear. We can choose a path of cooperation, diplomacy, and global engagement, working together to address the challenges facing our planet, or we can choose a path of isolationism, confrontation, and environmental destruction, putting our collective future at risk. The stakes have never been higher. The time for action is now.